Portia is about to walk into the darkest moment of her life. And honestly, guys, I do not think anybody is ready for how brutal this story could become. What started as a healthy pregnancy may suddenly spiral into pure tragedy. And if these spoilers are heading where I think they are, then Portia could soon be forced to say goodbye to her own baby in one of the most heartbreaking scenes this show has delivered in years. And the scary part is this disaster may not come from a medical problem at all. It may come from Isaiah and Curtis. That is the detail that keeps bothering me because Portia has been doing everything right lately. The pregnancy looked stable. Her condition looked good. Nothing really screamed danger. But in soap operas, peace is usually just the calm before everything explodes. The moment characters start feeling safe, the writers pull the floor right out from under them. And now, with Portia caught between the two most important men in her life, things are becoming dangerously unstable. We all know the tension between Isaiah and Curtis has been building fast. Curtis has been targeting Isaiah more aggressively, and this situation feels personal now. This is no longer some minor disagreement people can brush aside. The resentment is getting ugly. The emotions are getting louder, and Portia is standing directly in the middle of it all while being heavily pregnant. That alone is terrifying, because stress like this changes everything. If you ask me, the writers are setting up a situation where one emotional shock could send Portia straight into labor before anybody is prepared for it. And once that happens, the nightmare really begins. I can already picture the scene so clearly. Isaiah and Curtis are arguing, maybe screaming. Maybe things turn physical. Maybe one of them gets hurt badly. And Portia witnesses all of it. She panics. Her breathing changes. Her body reacts instantly. Suddenly she feels pain, contractions, dizziness, fear. The emotional pressure becomes too much all at once. And then chaos erupts. People start shouting for help. Portia collapses or grabs her stomach. Somebody rushes to call the hospital. And in that moment, Portia realizes something is wrong with the baby. That is when the terror truly hits. Because this is not just about labor starting early. This feels much darker than that. The show may be setting up a devastating callback to Sasha and Brando losing baby Liam. And the second I started thinking about that old story, I got chills. Remember how tragic that entire situation was? Sasha never made it to the hospital in time. Liam suffered oxygen deprivation. And even after all the hope surrounding his birth, everything collapsed into grief. That story destroyed Sasha emotionally. And honestly, the pain from that loss never fully disappeared. Now imagine the writers taking that exact emotional trauma and putting Portia through something horrifyingly similar. That would absolutely shatter her. Because Portia is entering this situation full of hope. She believes she is close to finally holding her child safely in her arms. She probably already imagined the future, imagined the nursery, imagined the life ahead. That is why this possible twist feels so cruel. The higher the hope, the harder the fall. And guys, I really think the hospital scenes are going to become complete emotional warfare. Portia may get rushed into emergency labor while emotionally unstable after the Isaiah and Curtis confrontation. Doctors are scrambling. Nurses are panicking. The baby is in distress. Portia is terrified. Nothing is going according to plan. But then comes the part that could change everything. Britt may end up being the one forced to help deliver Portia's baby. And honestly, that possibility scares me. Not because Britt would intentionally do anything wrong, but because this situation may spiral beyond her control. Britt might suddenly be thrown into an emergency she is not fully prepared to handle. There may not be enough time. There may not be enough support. One wrong judgment during delivery could make the entire situation worse. That is where the suspense gets unbearable. Because Britt may realize almost immediately that something is off. Maybe the baby's heartbeat weakens. Maybe Portia starts crashing emotionally and physically. Maybe the delivery becomes more complicated second by second. And the entire time, Britt is trying to stay calm while internally realizing this could become a catastrophe. You can almost hear the silence in the room before it even happens. Then comes the moment I think is going to absolutely destroy viewers emotionally. Britt finally delivers the baby. For one tiny second, everybody believes the nightmare is over. Portia is exhausted but hopeful. She reaches out with shaking hands. Tears are already running down her face because she thinks she made it through the danger. And then everything changes because the baby is not crying. The baby is not moving. The baby is not breathing. Just imagine that horrifying silence. No sound, no movement, nothing. And suddenly Britt's face changes completely. That tiny flicker of panic in her eyes could say everything before she even opens her mouth. Maybe she quickly tries to save the baby. Maybe nurses rush in. Maybe someone starts emergency procedures. But Portia already knows something is terribly wrong. That instinct hits mothers immediately. And if this scene happens the way I think it might, Portia's reaction is going to be devastating. She may completely break apart right there in that hospital bed. I can already hear her screaming through tears, begging someone to help her baby, refusing to believe what she is seeing. Portia may keep asking why the baby is not crying, why nobody is saying anything, why everyone suddenly looks afraid. That is the kind of grief that does not feel scripted. It feels raw, animalistic, like somebody's entire soul just cracked open in real time. And honestly, that is why this story could become unforgettable. Because Portia was supposed to be safe, that is the emotional trap here. The writers gave viewers comfort first. They made the pregnancy appear stable. They allowed Portia to dream about the future. And now they may be preparing to rip that dream away in the most brutal way possible. But here's the part where things become even more suspicious. What if this is not just a tragic accident? What if there is a hidden reason everything went wrong? I keep coming back to Isaiah and Curtis because their conflict feels way too important to ignore. Their confrontation may not just trigger Portia's labor emotionally. There may be secrets underneath this entire situation that have not exploded yet. Maybe Curtis uncovers something shocking about Isaiah. Maybe Isaiah has been hiding something dangerous. Maybe Portia herself has been ignoring warning signs because she was too focused on keeping peace between the two men. And what if the emotional trauma from their fight becomes the exact catalyst that destroys everything? That would mean Curtis and Isaiah might both end up blaming themselves for what happened to Portia's baby. Can you imagine how ugly that guilt would become? Curtis may think his anger caused the stress that triggered the labor. Isaiah may think he failed Portia completely when she needed him most. And Portia? She may blame both of them. That could permanently destroy every relationship involved in this story. Because grief changes people, especially grief like this. A mother losing a child is not the kind of pain characters simply recover from after a few episodes. This kind of trauma rewrites a person completely. Portia could become colder, angrier, emotionally detached, or even consumed by blame and obsession afterward. And then there is Britt. Guys, Britt could come out of this story emotionally wrecked too. If she believes her lack of experience contributed to the baby's death, she may never forgive herself. Imagine Britt standing there after the delivery, holding back tears while quietly shaking her head because she knows she could not save the child. That visual alone is heartbreaking. Portia reaching for her baby. Britt unable to look her in the eyes. Machines beeping in the background. People frozen in silence. That feels exactly like the kind of emotional scene soaps love to build toward before detonating viewers emotionally. But wait, because I do not think the story necessarily ends there. This is where the speculation gets wild. What if the baby is not actually gone? You guys already know, soap operas love shocking reversals. So there is definitely a chance the show could fake viewers out temporarily before revealing another twist later. Maybe the baby appears lifeless at first because of oxygen deprivation or complications during delivery, but doctors eventually manage to revive the child. Maybe Britt believes the worst too quickly because she panics under pressure. Or maybe the writers want viewers drowning in despair before pulling off a dramatic miracle later. That possibility absolutely exists. But honestly, I am not fully convinced this is heading toward a happy ending. Something about this storyline feels darker. The emotional buildup feels too heavy. The repeated references to stress, danger, emotional trauma, and labor complications feel deliberate. And the callback to Liam especially makes me nervous because soaps rarely revisit old tragedies unless they are preparing to echo them in some way. That is why I think Portia may genuinely lose this baby. And if that happens, the aftermath is going to be explosive. Because people are going to start pointing fingers immediately. Curtis could spiral into guilt and rage. Isaiah could become emotionally destroyed. Portia could completely shut everybody out. And Britt may end up carrying the unbearable belief that she failed when Portia needed her most. But honestly, the biggest twist may still be coming afterward. Because tragedy in soaps never arrives alone. It usually opens the door for secrets. And what if this loss uncovers hidden truths nobody expected? What if Isaiah has been lying about something important? What if Curtis knows more than he admitted? What if Portia discovers something shocking during her grief that completely changes how she sees both men? Because right now, the emotional tension around this triangle feels way too dangerous to end quietly. Something bigger is brewing underneath it. And if the baby dies, that emotional devastation could become the trigger that exposes every buried secret surrounding Portia's life. That is why I think viewers should pay very close attention to what happens immediately after the labor scenes. Not just the tragedy itself. The reactions afterward? Who blames who? Who starts hiding things? Who suddenly acts guilty? Who cannot look Portia in the eyes anymore? Those details matter. Because sometimes in soaps, the loudest clue is not the scream. It is the silence after it. And if this story really goes where I think it might, then Portia's world is about to collapse in ways nobody sees coming. The cruelest part is that she may spend one beautiful, heartbreaking moment holding her baby before realizing the child is gone. That image could become one of the saddest scenes this show has delivered in a very long time. A mother finally meeting her child, only for that happiness to vanish seconds later. And even now, I still cannot shake the feeling that this tragedy may only be the beginning of something even darker. Because in this town, pain always leaves a trail. And somebody may be hiding the real reason this nightmare happened in the first place.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.